Now, being a Power 5 coordinator, whether it be offense or defense, is not an easy gig, no matter where you are. But if there was ever a high-level coordinator spot that should lead to success more times than not, it's being the DC at a place like LSU. That's what makes the failure of Matt House and the defensive staff in general so surprising these past couple years. I mean, hell, the place recruits itself. It's a national brand that's known for flying around with elite athletes and leaving a path of destruction behind it. Now, even though they've had some incredible offenses recently, go back to Joe Burrow, obviously with Jaden Daniels and that crew this year, when I think of LSU, I still think of defense. I think of guys like Honey Badger, Glenn Dorsey, Marcus Spears, Ryan Clark, Patrick Peterson, hell, Craig Stelz, a.k.a. Haru the Great White Ninja. Now, for LSU to get back to prominence and get back to that level, they have to get back to that way of life. The first feeling opponents should have when they see that purple and gold is the fear of not being hungry, not being intimidated. That's the new LSU, but they should be scared of LSU. You should be scared of the purple and gold. So whoever the new DC is, whether it be Blake Baker, whether it be Zach Arnett, we can go down the list of candidates. You have to get LSU back to that point. You don't have to be the most elite scheme artist. It's more about how you communicate. It's more about earning the genuine trust of your players and letting them play fast without thinking. See, defense is about alignment, assignment, effort, and togetherness. And if you can't find that in the state of Louisiana at LSU, then your ass is never going to find it regardless of where you end up at. And that's where they have to get back to. Now, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, he knows something about facing elite defenses. My brother, former Western State Colorado wide receivers, ran into a few himself.
Just not over the middle.
Just not, yeah. But if we're going to talk about over the middle, we can talk about candidates. Zach Arnett, I think, is obviously a legitimate candidate. It looks like Blake Baker, who played at Tulane, coached at Louisiana Tech, coached at LSU, coached the linebackers in 2021. It seems as though he's the leading candidate, at least from what I've heard, that who's the DC at Missouri. It's going to be tough to pull him, but if anybody can pull him, LSU can. But, I mean, David, it's still so weird to me to watch LSU be so dysfunctional on defense.
It was shocking. One of the biggest surprises of this football season. I saw DJ Durkin was on the list as well. And then I saw Tony Gibson, the DC at NC State. It was interesting to see him on a couple lists coming out of LSU as a possible candidate because I played for Coach Gibson at Michigan. But it was one of the bigger surprises this year to watch the way this LSU defense played. And I understand, making a change at coordinator can make a big difference. But at some point, you have to have the guys over there. And that was one of the bigger surprises. Now, we talked a lot yesterday and throughout the season about everything that Jaden Daniels brought to the LSU offense and to the team. The most dynamic football player in the country, won the Heisman Trophy. Garrett Nussmeier is a fantastic quarterback. I think he's going to do great things there. But you're losing that dynamic guy and a lot on the outside with these wide receivers who are going to play for a long time on Sunday. How good can they get at other areas of the team quickly enough is my question for LSU. Can you get back to being that sort of defense, like Tyrone Matthews style defense that no one wants to play? That's the biggest question for me for LSU. And then can you still be good enough on offense to go through this is going to be the most interesting season of college football, right? Yeah. You have Texas and Oklahoma both coming into the SEC. You're getting rid of divisions. Missouri and Ole Miss, programs like that are on the rise. Everything's changing around the country. It's not a time to be taking a step backwards. I think Brian Kelly's going to hit the ground running quickly with whoever the new DC is.
Yeah, and look, there's no way you're going to have the production offensively next year that you had this past year.
I agree.
There's just no way. And that's not a shot at Garrett Nussmeier. He just can't do as many things as Jaden Daniels can. Plus, you're losing Neighbors, who's a top pick. Brian Thomas Jr. just declared for the draft. You do have a young offensive line, an offensive line that's going to be coming back in some important spots. We obviously know what they've done in recruiting. We know what they have at tight end. But you're not going to win anything, even with a 12-team playoff, if you don't have some semblance of defense.
Yeah.
And to expect LSU to be able to put up the numbers that they put up this year next year offensively, what they did this past year, and somehow also be a lead on defense, that's not going to happen. The question now becomes, how close can you get to being a balanced football team? Because we talk about the guys. I mean, you had Harold Perkins.
Oh.
You got Sage Ryan. You got Wingo.
You always got guys at LSU.
Mason Smith's back this year. It's not like there's just a bunch of awful players running around. That's why my whole point is, again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel schematically at LSU to be good on defense. A lot of it is, and we've heard, Matt House and them, oh, well, we're going to simplify it. Oh, it's addition by subtraction. Well, yeah, well, it never translated. Something is wrong with the way you were teaching it and the way you were preparing. That's what I've watched LSU enough, and I know what it looks like when I turn on the tape and I watch guys run around. I watch guys play with their hands up front. I watch guys be able to open up their hips. I watch them zone turn. I watch them man turn. I watch their eyes. It was an undisciplined defense that I think was too complex at first, right? You mix that with being undisciplined, you're dead. Then they try and simplify it, but you're still undisciplined, so it's not going to work.
Well, I think a lot of it when it comes to a DC, you got to bring in, his mentality, and that's where it starts at LSU. And you go back to the national championship LSU team, that defense wasn't phenomenal.
But they were good, though.
But they were good enough to win you the championship.
2010 Auburn.
You had guys like, and the thing about it, like, even if they're bad years, go back to Derek Stingley Jr., even if they're bad year, balled at LSU. Patrick Queen, who's starting for the Ravens now, they weren't great on defense. So they always have guys, but they need the right guy at DC. And you kind of hit on it earlier. When I think of LSU, my mind doesn't go to offense. No matter all the phenomenal receivers you've had, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, all these guys, I think of impact players on defense. I think of the Patrick Petersons. I think of the Honey Badgers. I think of all these guys, and I think that was a mentality. That's leadership. I don't know the depth LSU has, but I know the real leaders they have on defense that I haven't heard from lately. If there's a place that you can flip immediately that has a border around their state, name me a better place than LSU.
Yeah, well, I think it's special teams too. Again, I just and maybe it's just being a product of growing up, in SEC country and seeing it. But the main thing about LSU was the physicality. Mm-hmm. That was the thing. When LSU's defense, it's one thing when LSU's offense is cooking. It's fun. You watch them go run around, make crazy plays. We saw what Jaden did this last year. But there's just something else. I feel like when the defense is hot, like the boot catches on fire. It's just
that's how no matter how great your offense is, you see the teams that are in it every year.
Yeah.
Why is Alabama in it every year? Because their defense is going to be there. Michigan, because their defense is going to be there. Georgia, because your defense wins you championships. And you probably see that against Michigan and Washington.
And I thought Harold Perkins Jr. would be the best defensive player in college football this year. I thought that was the next step, right? Like that we were going to see from him. I don't know. It's just, it was fascinating to see this LSU defense keep, Jaden Daniels had to get in shootouts every single week. It was like, and we talked about down the stretch of the Heisman Trophy. A lot of people were saying, well, he's putting up these gaudy numbers because he's in these tight ball games and he's having to do that, right? We talked about Shedeur Sanders at Colorado being in the same vein, whereas some of these other guys with the Heisman Trophy, they're not playing for the last quarter and a half of a game. Sometimes that's just the way it shakes out, but maybe they'll benefit even more from trying to be more balanced next season,
Yeah. There's, I think that makes it actually harder for Jaden Daniels than to go out there and score when it's got to be you. It's like in basketball. If they know you have to shoot the three to win, it makes you a lot easier to defend. I feel like, and I know that LSU fans feel this way, you feel like you were almost robbed of a legitimate championship year with this offense. If you would have just had an average defense. Which is not asking too much at a place like LSU. But just as a college football fan, I feel like we were robbed.
Yeah.
I hope everybody realizes how elite this LSU offense was. Mm-hmm. This LSU offense this past year was up there with about as many as I can remember. Were they the most dominant in the run game as compared to some teams in the past with electric offenses? No. I wouldn't say that. But as far as what Jaden Daniels can do from a creative standpoint and just from a running what he's supposed to run, but Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, Lacey. You go down the list. It was just an absolute phenomenal year offensively for LSU, and you feel like you didn't pay that off.
You're not getting that back.
You're not getting that back.
You're not getting that back.
That's the worst part.
LSU fans, USC fans, I guess they can come together on this, having a good enough offense to win it, but never have a good enough defense. And who'd have thought we'd ever have LSU and USC in the same vein in that conversation?
Yeah. Well, we want to know what you think. The line's going to open up 7:15 a.m. Central. That's 8:15 a.m. Eastern. Want to get to the Booster Club. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. And also, got to let you know, Monday, it's going down. Y'all know how we do it here at Crane & Company. The National Championship live stream watch party extravaganza of friendship and Booster Club awareness.
A lot of
2024. David Cohn's going to be so nervous.
I can't wait to see you.
You're going to be so nervous.
Calm.
I cannot wait. We're going to be doing live
Calm.
betting. Make sure you show up. We're going to do our best to try and sync up where the game is, like for everybody, like to be that perfect point. But it's impossible to do it perfectly. We're going to do our best. So make sure you join us Monday, January 8th, 7:15 p.m. Eastern. That's 6:15 p.m. Central. And grab some merch. Help out the show. Right? You want to live your best life? We want to live our best life. You want to walk around that Booster Club hoodie looking super dope. We got a mug out right now that everybody's just absolutely in love with. I heard it's probably the best mug around.
Get a mug or get mug.
Yeah, get a mug or get mug, right? In your mug. So that's how we live our lives. So make sure you check out that merch. We're going to put the link in the chat. Booster Club, let's get it popping. It's Thursday.
All right, let's start it with Todd Ellis. Congratulations, Todd. Our first question of the day. Did BK hurt himself in recruiting by waiting this late to replace his defensive coordinator?
No, he helped himself because you did it after signing day. See, and look, it's part of the game. It's part of the game. Like now that signing day is in December, we have signing day in December and then the late signing window. There's no national signing day in February. It's in December now. So all the guys signed to the staff. And I know some people will be like, oh, that's nefarious. Oh, that's a lie. No, it's just how it goes.
Well, and it happened after the bowl game, too.
Yeah,
you
sure.
could at least say you let this staff finish out the season.
And it wasn't good against Wisconsin.
No, and if you're just going to let go of one guy, I understand how you could do that before the bowl game. But the entire defensive staff, at some point you need guys to be out there coaching in the bowl game.
And look, I'm sure the guys on the LSU defensive staff had an inkling that this was coming. I know this wasn't out of left field. You talked about Brian Kelly having to reevaluate everything at the end of the year. When you hear the term, if you're a position coach or a coordinator, and you ever hear the coach say, well, we're just going to reevaluate that coaching position or that side of the ball at the end of the year, good stuff really doesn't happen when you use the term reevaluate. Like that's the only time reevaluate is good is when we need to reevaluate my contract because we balled so hard. So now I'm gonna need some more money. So I don't think any of them were shocked. Part of the process, I think they did themselves a favor in recruiting by waiting until after signing day. Could you make the argument it could hurt you in the portal? I mean, yes, but after watching some of the videos, the way the players on LSU's defense interact with Matt House, I don't think they love that guy. I just watched the way Wingo interact.
They don't play like it.
They damn sure didn't play like it.
You gave up 31 to Wisconsin.
Yeah, you made Wisconsin's offense. And listen, I was big on Tanner Mordecai before the year. I like Phil Longo at North Carolina, which, by the way, I don't know if y'all saw Gene Chizik. Coming back to North Carolina as the defensive coordinator. It's amazing what happens when you don't have Cam Newton. But I don't think those players were in love with Matt House. I don't think you're going to see some, oh, no, I'm now leaving LSU because Matt House isn't the DC.
I was going to Lee Thompson. Lee, what is up? He says, when will Brian Kelly be on the hot seat, and is he already?
I mean, you won the SEC West in year one. You just won 10 games this year. I know it's a letdown because LSU standards are so high, and I get that, and Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. You know, if it falls off a cliff a little bit, next year's a big year for Brian Kelly, but next year's a big year for everybody. I mean, I don't think he's on the hot seat. I mean, the only rumors you're hearing about Brian Kelly leaving LSU is to go to Michigan if Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL, which, you know, I know we're going to dive into that after.
You know who LSU opens up with?
Who do they open up with next year?
USC.
Oh.
Where's that game again?
Vegas, right?
That game's in Vegas. I mean,
wow, LSU fans in Las Vegas.
You have UCLA at home, week 4. You got Bama at home and Oklahoma at home.
Well, one good thing with Brian Kelly at LSU, you know the floor's so much higher than when the wheels did fall off with Ed.
Oh, without a doubt.
Right? So the floor's higher. Is the ceiling as high? Because the last 3 coaches who've coached there have won national championships. That's the question. And when you see things like what Jim Harbaugh's done at Michigan or Mike Norvell, who was kind of on the hot seat at Florida State, the way he turned things around, I think you're going to see some of these programs who are going to say, okay, as long as the floor's really, really high season after season and we're still doing great in recruiting, a great coach is going to get to the highest ceiling point.
And that provides continuity. I think the difference, that's a great point, Cone. When Brian Kelly is the man of the house, the air conditioning may break. Like hey, maybe the fridge goes out. That's like the worst thing that happens. When Ed Orgeron was the head of the house, oh no, how did the house burn down when we went to the grocery store?
We've had a termite problem for 12 years.
Yeah, we've had it. The termites just ate the whole house. Like that is a good point with Brian Kelly. Hey, everybody on YouTube, thanks for stopping by. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on, and make sure you like this video. Doesn't take a lot of effort, but it goes a long way. We appreciate it.